Takeda, the samurai warrior. This young man has walked a tiresome road. He has come a long way, searching for a worthy foe, for the pumping of blood that happens in battle. His strict code of honor guides his actions, as his wit guides his blade. This is a person that gets the job done. His quick thinking and fast decision-making led him to save a child from drowning in Lake Zarovich, near Valaki. The older brothers of the cold, wet child, Vistanish, stationed in a camp near the town, were overjoyed with the heroic act. And although Vistanis are known to be allies of Strahd, famous for their unique ability to be able to leave Barovia, they offered him a reward that Takeda took without a second thought. A platinum hilt in the perfect shape and condition, of master workmanship. Although the hilt was without a blade, the samurai had found what would be his greatest weapon to defeat Strahd, the Sun Blade. Bradel, the righteous, carries on his back the heavy weight of the weightless rope, the colossal burden of a past that is ever present. In his eyes, there is a flicker that shows that in his heart there is good and light, but also regret, sin, and darkness. Bradel is fond of the local deity known as the Morning Lord. While whispering his name, the paladin imposes what he believes to be right upon the world. It is his way to make the world better than it was. A way to punish evil, to share the light, a way of running from his sinful past. This overwhelming need to do good has slowly built a crack in the party. When the man known as Takeda slaughtered the cultists below the household of Watcher House in Valaki, Bradel disapproved, only to later slaughter all the hags habiting the old bone grinder in cold blood. Takeda did not take this lightly. Barovia is not only slowly taking away the hero's sanity and passion, but is also, ever so slowly, tearing their bonds apart. Zealot, the Warforged that was forged for war and was struck by lightning sent by Thor. The only thing that would make him whole is having at the center of his core a soul, so he searches far and wide for what he believes he might never find. A rational mind with trouble understanding emotions, he longs for the ability to truly live, to truly feel. In Barovia, discovered companions in the oddest of places. It was hard to comprehend so many unknown faces, but caring for his friends without relent earned him his fame. Thus, Zealot the Immortal he was named. Not all things, however, were as they seemed, for a grand truth crept behind this hopeful being. In the dusty corners of a forgotten library, a single book its secrets revealed, at the core of his essence was truly a still. Scarred by an unlived life, with eyes that were his own, what will this Warforged do to feel again and have it be known? With this party who challenges fate, who knows what will be found? In his introductory dinner, Strahd made his promise sound, promised our faithful Warforged that his question would be answered. When its gears were torn to shreds, he would, maybe, in Valhalla, see Thor's hammer at last. Zerkanus, much like Bradel, is torn between light and dark. Unlike Bradel, however, this dashing human does not run away from either. He understands that one cannot exist without the other, sometimes healing the diseased in the name of Pelor, sometimes scouring the streets at night. This dangerous man intends to fly high. Becoming an angel is his long-lived dream, and he is definitely not going to stop when faced with the challenges of Barovia. In the Abbey of Saint Markovia in Kresk, Zerkanus met what he believes to be an angel fallen from grace. Mad and corrupted by the time he spent here, he believes the only way to stop the curse of Strahd is to make him love again. He pursues his goal by training a flesh golem in the form of Irina Koliana, their trusted companion and supposedly the reincarnation of Tatiana, the lost love of Strahd. Even in madness, this angel tries to do good by the people. However, if an angel can drop so low, nothing is keeping a human from ascending just as high. Zerkanos is unsure why the gods chose Takeda to be the carrier of the Sunblade. He believes his treacherous hands would be more fitted to that legendary weapon. This envy did not go well with the samurai, who noticed his intent and confronted him with strength and determination. Around Takeda is a strong will that does not sit well with the rest of the party. In the Ambar Temple, in the highest peak of Mount Kakish, our rogue paladin was faced with the choice of accepting a dark power that would fulfill his desire, in what may very well be the hardest choice of his life. The light won. In refusing the dark powers of this place, Zerkanus showed something to the world and the gods. He knows his wish is not simple in nature. There are no shortcuts. He will walk every step of the long, tiresome road that is life in order to succeed. Strahd has found interest in him. Unclear if Zerkanus' motivation is a result of growing madness or not. Zerkanus has also found interest in Strahd. After learning his past, from a man who lost everything and refuged himself in power, to a man who had nothing to begin with and seeks purpose in power, he feels like, if things were slightly different, he could have ended up just like the vampire, which makes him almost pity what is now a monster. But at the same time, he feels glad for the choices he made in his life, which could be the first signs of something he never had: self-love. After months trapped in this wicked, misty, dark valley, what Zerkanus wants the most is to see Gisela's face one more time. If he were not to return, the beautiful, strong Gisela would cry. That is something that must never happen. Vanavor, the man that can open every door, very early learned that some doors should not be opened. Underground, in the basement of the Death House, in the village of Barovia, while the party was overwhelmed by the ferocious attacks of the ghouls of the former masters of this house, his rogue met his demise by the grasp of the door mimic. Quickly resurrected by a revivify scroll, the adventurer quickly understood that this place was not to be taken lightly. In his travels through this valley, while the party was camping near the old Svalich road, a ghostly attack stole his youth. Wriggly and white of hair, Vanavor lost a lot in Barovia, but also found some things. In the town of Valaki, Vanavor, with the help of Zerkanus, found the bones of Saint Androl in the closet in the house of Henrik van der Voort, the local coffin maker. Although this discovery could not stop the attack by the night creatures to the Valaki church, Vanavor did the shot of a lifetime. By throwing a flask of poison and proceeding to shoot an arrow across a room full of bats that hit the flying flask and simultaneously landed in Strahd's neck, this shot was not enough to stop the slaughter that happened that night, and it was most definitely not enough to weaken Strahd. However, that shot was a statement that Strahd does not have free reign over these people, that these adventurers will fight, and they will fight hard. What Vanavor won that night was the smile of the people. When the heroes overthrew the old regime and instituted the Keepers of the Feather as the new leaders, he won the people's heart. He gave them a glimmer of sunshine in this dark place. He understood that coin is not the only thing worth pursuing. In this town, he also made a mortal enemy by the name of Isaac. Isaac met his demise while leading some human militia on the stone-cold floor of Strahd's castle. For unknown reasons, they were fighting the vampires that threatened the party. Our party was peacefully sharing drinks in a cozy tavern on a misty night when a hooded man entered the tavern with a purse full of coin and a letter in hand. After buying everyone around, he delivered such letter to the adventurers, written by the burgomaster of Barovia, asking for immediate help. Swiftly, the five traveled through the mists, passing the huge gates into Barovia. In the grim and dark village of Barovia, two children, Rose and Thorn, asked the adventurers for help, stating that there was a monster in the basement of their house. What they have come to find was a death house. Specters and living brooms showed their presence was not welcome in the haunted manor. Vanavor found his unfortunate demise in the dungeon, cold and alone. The party soon found out that the burgomaster of Barovia recently died, and later discovered that the letter was written by Strahd von Zarovich himself, the vampire lord that controls and terrorizes this valley. The heroes took upon themselves to take Irina as far as possible from Strahd's grasp, as she would often be visited by him in lustful red nights. After witnessing the March of the Dead and the dangers of the Svalich woods, they arrive at Vallaki, where they proceeded to interfere with the burgomaster's philosophy that all is well. After colluding with Fiona Wachter to overthrow Baron Vargas Valakovich, the newly found allies, the Martikov family, were instituted as the new rulers of Vallaki. The Martikov family belongs to the order, the Keepers of the Feather. These are a faction of were-ravens fighting as they can against the oppressive presence of Strahd in this valley. To this end, they have a vineyard and a winery west of Vallaki, which they use to distribute wine to all the corners of the valley. Wine being the only way for these unfortunate people to temporarily distance themselves from their cruel reality. The party also tried to save St. Andrew's Church, but to no avail. If only the heroes were a little bit faster, they could have stopped the attack made by the vampire lord that killed the Morning Lord's priest, and every little hope that these people had left. They met the Vistani, one of which was the one that brought them to this place, the Dusk Elves, the mad mage in the woods north of Svalich Lake, slaughtered the cult disguised as a book club in the Washer House, met a couple of hunters, Rictavio the traveling bard, the toy maker Badov Blinsky. During the rebellion led by the heroes, the evil and oppressive head of the town guard, Isaac Strasny, fled to the woods. Vanavor swore on that day that Isaac would fall by his blade. While traveling through the old Svalich road, the adventurers grew ever so restless, as the mist and corruption of this place were ever present, always ready to enter whenever their guard was down. In an unwanted detour on their way to the vineyard, they met the revenants of the Argynvost Hold mansion. Up until the meeting with Vladimir Hurgar, everyone either were allied with Strahd or hid. These undead had the will to fight and the desire to punish Strahd. In a twisted way, he believes Strahd is suffering in this hell of his creating. Vladimir intends to stay vigilant so that no one slays Strahd, for that would only bring him peace, a peace that he does not deserve. Still, the Revenant does not fight the adventurers, even if these intend to do just that, for he believes in his heart that they could never possibly defeat Strahd, for he has tried many times in the past, and failed. Takeda, Bradel, Zerkanush, Zealot, and Vanavor are still full of energy and life, and common characteristics for this wicked place. With courage and relief, they finally arrive at the old vineyard, the Wizards of Wine Winery. Near an old olive tree, Darian Martikov warned the party that the winery was overrun by evil druids that came from the south, leading an army of blights. Swiftly, Vanavor and Zerkanush infiltrate the winery while the rest of the party fight the blights outside. After finding the druid leader, stealing his Gulthia's staff, and breaking it in the ground, a shockwave blast exploded off, making every blight in the distance inert. With the druid slain, the Martikov family could return to their wine-making business. Wine was scarce in every town of the valley, as the Druids had hold of the vineyard for a large number of weeks. The keepers of the feather are kind and prudent. Strahd controls every rat, every bat, every wolf and werewolf, but the crow's caw is still free in this realm. For this great feat, the Martikov family deserves a humble bow. With 3 barrels of purple grape mash wine, the adventurers head to Kresk, the westmost village of the valley. So far, having Irina near them always brought dangers upon them. Kresk, being the place furthest away from Strahd's influence, represents Irina's safety. In Kresk, they met a self-sufficient village, closed to the outside, closed to the evil that lurks in the forests. The party is presented with the miracle of life, the birth of a child. The beautiful moment is awkwardly turned into a nightmare, the moment the baby comes out and does not cry. Both the mom and the midwife start crying. It is known that only 1/10 of the population of this valley is born with a soul. Soulless babies don't cry, don't feel, don't interact. At the top of the hill in the east side of the village, they meet the abbot, the keeper of the Abbey of Saint Markovia. The Yon's holy grounds are full of part human, part animal abominations. Their leader, the divine abbot, plans on making a flesh golem that is the perfect replica of Irina. He intends to introduce it to Strahd, in hopes that, if Strahd loves once again, the curse that fell upon this valley would be lifted once and for all. Madness clearly floats in the air of this abbey, the good-kinded one. After leaving Irina behind, in what the heroes believe to be the safest place in the valley, they return to the winery. The Martikov family had warned them that those 3 barrels they delivered to Kresk were the last ones. The vineyard could not produce more wine since the lands were not fertile anymore. They explained that the 3 magical orbs that enriched these lands were lost. One, 3 years ago, is nowhere to be seen. Another was stolen some weeks ago by Baba Lizaga, a powerful old hag that holds residence in the ruins of Perez. Recently, when the Druids attacked, they took the last orb, leaving the vineyard to rot. Upon reaching the vineyard, they expected the worn-out faces of the were-ravens. Instead, they found death and destruction. A giant blighted living tree smashed the old winery to pieces and left a trail heading south. Amidst the rubble, Strahd von Zarovich invites the adventurers for a battle. Fireballs are flung, swords are swung, arrows released and words of prayer are sung. Soon after the beginning of the cacophony, a sickening silence. The heroes, bruised and burned, forced Strahd to escape to his castle in the form of a bat. Although they were outnumbering the vampire 5-1, their hearts bore the heavy burden of defeat. The vineyard, the winery, the symbols of resistance in this sick land, reduced to a pile of rubble. Where most would give up, let the madness in, except that light cannot reach this misty place. These 5 took upon themselves to strike Strahd back. It is known that over the years many have tried and failed, and if they were to fail as well, many more would come to follow their steps. It was time to stop. So they scoured the lands, weakening Strahd's allies. They started with the Druids in Easter Hill. They were the ones that brought the destruction of the winery to fruition. Upon that wicked hill, where lightning strikes every so often, the heroes fought the giant blight, an epic battle that ended in success. The Druids, clear Strahd fanatics, were now fertilizing the grounds where they slept. This victory was the first time the party saw hope. They looked up with a magical gem recovered and an iron will in their eyes. They head east, where they find a mysterious tower with little inside, some notes, a preserved head, a cursed armor. Then they follow to the ruins of Perez. They meet Baba Lizaga, an old hag that floats around in a giant skull. She says she's the mother of Strahd himself, and although she did not seem to be hostile toward the heroes, they had to get Martikov's gems back. With a solid plan with questionable execution, they killed the hag and the animated house she lived in. This hag was probably the most powerful being in this whole valley, except for the Lord himself, of course. With headstrong determination, they head east, slowly approaching the castle. After destroying the old bone grinder to dust, which housed 3 hags that cooked dream pastries with the teeth of kidnapped children, they were faced with an irrefutable invitation. Rahadin himself, the chamberlain to the castle Ravenloft, cordially invited, in the name of Strahd, the adventurers to dine. The carriage voyage to Ravenloft Castle was weirdly unimpeded by Strahd's minions and monsters, common encounters for the brave who ventured this valley. It was, however, full of encouragement and confrontation, nevertheless. Avistani had sneaked into the black wooden carriage, a beautiful woman with a mechanical leg by the name of Esmeralda Davenir. This character had already met our heroes in the old Hargin Vasthold mansion, where she read their fortune in a set of cards. Now, she shares their motivation. She was trained under the famous vampire hunter Van Richten. This man was like a father to Esmeralda. In the past, he showed her great kindness when he did not murder her true parents, after they kidnapped Van Richten's son and sold him to a local vampire lord. Like every other close relationship, though, it had some difficulties. They split up some years ago. Van Richten, determined to hunt Strahd down, ventured into Barovia and was never seen again. Esmeralda arrived in the valley a few months ago looking for him, but to no avail. She has seen the heroic acts of the party and decided to join their quest to slay the vampire. If she can't find her mentor and friend, the least she could do is avenge him. She is fast, her blades are sharp, her magic powerful. This ally is a glimmer of hope in your hearts. Her genuine smile leads you to trust her instinctively, and she has not disappointed yet. While Esmeralda was sharing her story, the carriage is stopped by a tall man with a great axe in hand. Vladimir, the Order of the White Dragon leader, now an undead revenant, stands in your way. He intended to not let you fight the vampire. His philosophy that Strahd had to suffer eternally fueled his actions. With a silver tongue, the party managed to convince him to let him pass peacefully. Later in the journey, crows joined the party and transformed into none other than Erwin and Danica Martikov, new leaders of Alaki and faithful allies. They encouraged the party to go forth into the castle and do what they have promised to do since the very beginning: to free the people, to unveil the sun, to remove the curse from the lands, to heal what had been broken, to slay the vampire who rules over this valley. To help you in this quest, they offered help as they could. Stored deep in the underground basement of their winery was a wine kept for centuries. It is said that it has powerful restoring properties. With the wine, another artifact was shared, one that you knew and once held. It's a green gem, the size of a pine, the one that had been stolen by the hag Baba Lizaga. They say a powerful wizard settled in this valley before Strahd was even born. Little is known of this entity. Even his name was lost. However, he created these artifacts to enrich the lands. They are powerful and hold great magic. The Keepers of the Feather gave one of them to you. This is a great honor, an even greater responsibility. These were-ravens have been in hiding for generations, helping the sad people of this valley. Were you to lose this battle, were you to lose this artifact, well, there is no telling what would happen. The two Martikovs nod you with hope as they fly away into the night. Soon after, rain started to fall, and the dusty road rapidly turned into mud. Walking in the direction of the castle, in the side of the road, was a red-headed woman, none other than Irina Kolyana. In her long red dress, she joins the party. Confused, The adventurers asked why she left Kresk and why she is heading to Strahd after they went to the trouble of leading her to the other side of the valley. Irina replies that she had some long talks with the abbot in Kresk. He led her to believe that if she gave herself to Strahd, then the valley would be safe from his oppression. If he let the devil love her, then the curse would be broken. With doubt and determination, she does not mind sacrificing herself for the greater good. Although they did not agree, the party acknowledged it was her choice to make, and even after noticing that something was off with Irina, they took her to the castle to meet Strahd. Their plan is to confront Strahd directly, and if it doesn't work, then Irina can do the abbot's plan. The carriage stops. The rain is pouring down alongside the occasional flash of lightning and roar of thunder. You have arrived. The big stone courtyard is what stands between you and Castle Ravenloft. A huge construction of beautiful Gothic architecture, high towers and glass windows. Mesmerized by the sheer size of it all, you hardly notice the huge wooden doors slowly open, sharing the light coming from the interior with the outside. You enter. Zealot, Vanavor, Zerkanos, Takeda, and Bradle. How far you've come. A simple group who had trouble dealing with a spectre when you entered these lands. Now, with two beautiful women, Esmeralda and Irina, you enter Castle Ravenloft with the intent to slay Strahd van Zorvich himself. You are greeted by Rahadin and asked to head to the dining room where Strahd plays the organ, awaiting his guests. Reluctantly, you have what is by far the best food you have had in months. Each bite reminds you that ever since you passed the big entrance gates, you had nothing but bad-tasting dried meat and bad sleeping spots. Straight nights without slumber were common these past months. Rations with no taste were considered a good meal. This dinner, by the presence of Strahd, was full of weird emotions. On one hand, the food and drink were out of this world. On the other, the notorious presence of Strahd was unsettling, and although Strahd was thought to desire Irina, he did not give attention to her presence. Strahd talked with the adventurers. Both parties respect each other's presence, each other's will and wit. When the dinner finishes, in a flash of darkness, Strahd disappears, stating that the hunt had begun. Free to roam the castle, the adventurers leave Irina in the dining room and search for Strahd for the final confrontation. Dark hallways and webby high ceilings, dusty stairs heading into endless towers. You walk through this old cursed castle. The sound of heavy rainfall in the background with the often thunder sets the mood for despair and fear. You find an old chapel with beautiful glass and broken benches. Near the altar, a dead man with a little silver statuette and an evil-looking axe. A pumping red crystal heart floated in the middle of a huge tower. Live-like statues, whose faces changed with every time the light of lightning hit them. A living suit of armor patrolling the outer walls. You meet a young woman that begged for freedom, stating that she was kidnapped and imprisoned by Strahd, only to later reveal her pointy fangs and be destroyed by your holy water. You met Leap Leafsiege, Strahd's accountant. In the next room, you battle vampire spawn and the big lord himself, with the help of the commoners led by Isaac, which were quickly slaughtered. You killed the vampires in the large throne room. Esmeralda was a great help. She showed her axe and rapier are not to be underestimated, and Vanavor, with his usually perfect aim, shot the final arrow in Strahd's life, as he turned into a pool of water and snow where he stood. Not understanding what Isaac was doing or why, you kept going, with a feeling you had not seen the last of the last Zarovich. You found an ancient wedding cake, with mold and webs growing around it. Most of the castle is covered in dust and neglect. This cake, that was once probably the source of happiness, like everything in this valley, was corrupted by time and evil into a lesser form of itself. It would be impossible, however, without magic, for this cake to be in this state of preservation. The next room held a study, where you took a moment to reflect in the vast knowledge held within. Some rested, while others learned interesting facts. Some understood powerful old magics, while others received life-changing information. Behind the lit fireplace of this study was the foreseen fortress behind the fortress. Esmeralda had seen this place in the cards. It held within riches without measure. Packed with powerful magic items, the heroes venture higher into the main tower of this castle. They were not ready for what would come to pass. You meet a young dashing vampire by the name of Asher. He waits in the upper lounge for Strahd to make amends to his broken romantic heart. As a way to hurt the vampire lord, he lets the party pass unimpeded. Behind a platinum door that would only open to a true heart, held a safe haven created by Mordenkainen himself, or the past version of him at least. There, the heroes found much needed help. On the platinum door was, on the inside, a carving in the shape of the handle of the Sunblade. In a modest room, there was a huge mirror behind a white sheet made of silk. There, the party felt a life passed by. Memories that were not their own were lived in quick succession. What they believed to be Strahd's life passed before their very eyes. Something was off, though, as every story had some different decisions and led to different endings. Confused, tired, and broken, the heroes head to the chapel, where they used the marble discs they had found throughout the castle to perform the ritual that opened before them the catacombs to the castle. The rainfall is intense. Madness flickers like the flamed candles on the corridors. These 5 brave men have lived through much in these past months. Their fear is as palpable as their will. Will they survive the great hunt? Will righteousness prove itself over sin? Do morals even make sense in these dark, cursed halls? The glint of gold, the smile of the innocent, a soul, a pair of wings, to be made whole. Is any of these worth it? Can what was once lost be found yet again? The chill coming from below is uninviting. Still the heroes march on into dangers unknown, to try to beat the curse of Strahd.